Nykolaiszyn with the Oklahoma State University Library. Also with me is Anna McDougall. Today is Friday, September 25th, 2015, and we're in Hugo, Oklahoma, Choctaw County. We're here to interview Taylor Payne as part of our Cowboys in Every County Oral History Project. Taylor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Taylor, we're going to learn a little bit more about you. Could you tell me the year you were born and where you were born?
Sure. I was born in 1992 in Paris, Texas.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your parents.
Sure. My father's name is Steve Payne and my mother is Patty Payne. They grew up here in Hugo, and they've been, next month, they will have been married 31 years. So that's a little bit about them. My dad is a contractor here in Hugo. He's been building houses for about 30 years probably, and my mother is a legal secretary at the district attorney's office here in Choctaw County.
Okay. And tell me what it was like growing up in Hugo as a little girl.
Sure. Gosh, it was really great growing up here because both of my sides of the family do live here. And so there were things that were very, traditions we had throughout the year that we liked to do, whether it was getting to enjoy the county fair or, a big thing in Hugo with it being Circus City, USA. Every year at the Christmas parade, we have Santa Claus ride an elephant. So that was something that we looked forward to every year was, seeing the parade. And then obviously when the circus comes to town, they always have a circus when they leave and go out on the road, and then when they come back through the year. So, and really it was just everything you can imagine about, a great small town life where you walk into, the feed store and see somebody or, walk down Main Street or go into the bank and, make a deposit in your savings account and get, something, a little treat. So it was just that it was more of a feeling, you have those great memories of growing up here. And like I said, with both sides of my family being here, I got to, experience it all here. So.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about going to school in Hugo.
So I did go to school in Hugo. I have an older brother. He's 7 years older than me, and so we both started to school here. And then he graduated, and then I actually started going to Soper, which is a neighboring town here in Choctaw County and where I graduated from. But I went to Hugo from pre-K, which here in town is called Gingerbread. So it's actually still going today. I had a wonderful teacher named Miss Cindy, and she had 4 daughters that we all went to church with for a while. And then Miss Cindy, she passed away a few years ago and had another teacher who has been a teacher here in Hugo for years and years take over. And so Gingerbread still lives on today. So we actually went to pre-K there and then went to Hugo. And it was really neat because I remember the first year I started 5th grade, we had just moved into a new house, and it was right on the bypass, and that is where the elementary school is. So it was really neat, to be able to go to school very close, and ride the bus home every day. You don't think about that being very exciting when you're older, but it seems like a big deal when you're younger. So. And like I said, I finished 5th grade here in Hugo, and then moved over to Soper and started 6th grade there.
Okay. And I was going to ask if you lived in town or on the outskirts of town.
Yeah. So when I was born, we lived in a little community. It's just northeast of here, about 5 miles. It's called Messer, and so it's just an outskirt of Hugo, kind of towards the lake. And so grew up there, and it was actually really neat because when you turn off the dirt road on the highway, there was an older couple that lived there, and then my grandma. And then if you go on straight down the road, my uncle and his wife, and then across the road from him was my dad's first cousin and his wife and kids. And then if you come back to my grandma's house, there was another road, and my other aunt and uncle lived there, and then we lived at the end of the road. So we all lived in kind of, one little area there. So we lived there till I was about 6, and then we moved into the house that I grew up in, and it's just across the bypass, and it's in the country, but southeast of Hugo.
Okay.
So yeah, my parents just actually recently moved they moved in last week actually to their new house. But I grew up in that house, so I know it's just
So, in addition to going to school in the area, what would you do for fun outside of school?
Sure. So definitely growing up kind of elementary, middle school age, a lot of your friends, obviously, that was another good thing about growing up is the parents all knew each other. So we got to do a lot of things with the other kids there. And so whether it was just, sleeping over at each other's houses. I remember we lived on 40 acres in the house that I was saying that I grew up in, and had cattle and stuff, and so a lot of times we would come over, and whether it was like camping in the backyard or doing something fun, sometimes around Halloween we would have hay rides at the house. And so and then other than that, when I was younger, we still had a movie theater here in Hugo that you could go to, but by the time we were in middle school and high school, that had closed down. And so it was sometimes we would travel to Paris and go, whether it was bowling or to the movies over there. So
And as you're going through school, are your thoughts on going to college?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, most definitely. So another thing that I was really, really passionate about was showing livestock. And so when my brother started the 9th grade, his freshman year, he joined FFA. And so that would have put me being around 7 years old. So I wasn't quite old enough to join for 4-H. But by the time he had started his sophomore year, I guess I was a little older than that. So by the time he was in his sophomore year, I was old enough to show. And so I got a pig. And so he had cattle as well. And so we started showing. And so that's really when probably what I spent most of my outside time doing was rather, than going to the movies or hanging out. It was hanging out with my friends that showed and going to shows on the weekend and stuff. And so that was really my passion and how I got into, knowing about OSU and what they did, because it is surrounded by the agriculture at the college. And so that was something I was really passionate about and kind of drove my passion to want to go to school there.
So you became active in 4-H?
Yes.
Did you ever go to Roundup?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was there. Gosh, I think we went 2 years at Roundup and stayed on the 12th floor of Drummond. The elevators were out, and so it was a great time. No, it was really neat, and that was the first time I ever got to go to campus. I think I was probably 11 or 12 when I went to Roundup, and it was just massive, going there. And so it was neat when I was back at college there to walk around campus and I remember that building, I was there when we went to Roundup. And so it is really great, yeah.
Did you go to the dances?
Yes, yeah. Do you remember those? I think there were only 2 kids, that myself and one other, that came from Choctaw County that went, but we knew some of the neighboring county kids, and so there was a small group of us that got to go. So I can't remember the building it was in. I remember the inside. It might have been actually in the mezzanine. Is that how you? Maybe, I don't remember. I remember what the inside looks at, but I can't remember the name of the building. But we had the dances at. So yeah.
So good time at 4-H Roundup.
Yes, yeah.
So that was your real first introduction to OSU, like the campus.
Yes.
And then from there, when people would ask you what your plans are when you were a senior, you just knew?
Well, actually probably no. So going on back a little ways, I feel like I find myself talking about him a lot. My brother is a big part of my life, and so he definitely contributed to that fact. So he was at OSU when I was starting high school.
Okay.
So he was a student there, and then I'd go up and visit him on the weekends and get to see kind of a college life there. He did the same similar thing as going to a junior college and then on to OSU. So he lived off campus, and so it was really neat. It was kind of a fun view of Stillwater. And so when I got to my senior year, I was doing classes concurrently at Eastern, Oklahoma State College in Wilburton, and did that for the last part of my senior year. So I had a full semester started, and I really wanted to go to OSU, but then I was really nervous about, starting at such a big college, with being away. And the school that I went to was smaller, so they didn't have a lot, a few college prep classes. And so there was just a part of me that felt like I wasn't, completely ready to be immersed in that many, kids at one college. So I did decide to go to Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant. It was about an hour from Hugo. And I went there and lived on campus, kind of got my feet wet in the college experience. But after being there, 3 semesters, I shortly decided that OSU was definitely where, I wanted and needed to be. So, yeah.
So when you decided to come to OSU, did you know what you wanted to study?
So I kind of had a pretty good idea, just because I've always felt like I've cling more to kind of the marketing and sales and those aspects. And so when I did my tour at Southeastern, they had a communications department. And so I felt like more than anything, that was kind of where I fit in. And so when I started at Southeastern, I was just a general communications major, as they didn't have any, ag-related courses at all there. And so then when I transferred to OSU, I knew I wanted to be in the ag, in the Kazner department. But, and I'd already been in communications, so I kind of would say stumbled on ag communications because it just seemed like the two things I wanted to do in one. And so it wasn't really, kind of one of those things where I definitely knew I wanted to go to OSU and be in the ag comm department. It was just, those were the two things I liked, and they happened to be together, so it fit. So that's how I ended up in that department.
So your first year at OSU was in what year?
2012.
Okay. And so did you drive to campus to get there?
Yes.
What did you drive?
Yeah. I had a 2008 Jeep Liberty. Yeah.
Okay, so you loaded up the Jeep. And you headed to Stillwater.
Yep.
And where'd you live?
I lived in, they're called Cowboy Town Apartments now, I believe, and that's how I met Macy, my roommate. We had a lot of mutual friends, and Macy was actually 2 years older than me, and she had suffered some medical problems that she had to leave school for, and so she was coming back a few semesters later, so we just said, hey, what the heck, we'll live together. And so we lived in the Cowboy Town Apartments. It's across from Texas Roadhouse in Stillwater. So we didn't know anything about Stillwater. Like I said, my mom and I had drove up there a couple of months, prior to that, and I had gotten an interview for a job there. And so I did that, and we looked for a place to live, and just decided, we'll start here. So lived there and took most of everything and loaded up and went.
And did you get the job that you interviewed for?
I interviewed at Stillwater National Bank, and so I worked there as a proof in the proof department. So I had previously worked at a bank here in Hugo, and so that's why I did that. So I worked in the afternoons and went to school in the mornings.
So let's talk about some of the classes you remember that really had an impact on you.
Sure. So this is actually pretty funny because we were, it's a class that is required by all Kazner majors at OSU, but it's not actually an ag comm course. It is Dr. Anderson's sales and marketing class. So it's actually, he would kill me if I didn't remember this. I believe it is an econ course. By title, but that class just definitely led me into the direction of the career I wanted to do. I remember I took some summer classes 2012. In the fall I started my full semester, and it was that first semester I was in the class, and with about 120 other kids, and wasn't really sure what I'd gotten myself into. And so, but I just thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. He's definitely has an somewhat unconventional way of teaching. He's not one of those professors that's just going to go in and say, hey, here's what we're learning this week, and just kind of lecture. He's very interactive with the students, and definitely has a way of keeping your attention. And so he teaches you, real life scenarios where sometimes you go in and learn things that you're not going to, maybe use in the real world. And so definitely that class more than any stuck with me as far as being able to, take something out of it. So, and he would, we have to do 2 major projects in the class, and it's actually called a swaz, a sachet with a salesperson. And so, he comes up with the craziest things. And so you ride along with a salesperson for the class, and then you have to, basically shadow them, write a paper, about what they did. Is that something you're interested in, or not? And then at the end of the semester, you do a project where you sell a product. And you can pick whatever you want, anything, whether it's agriculture related or not, whether you want to sell feed or you want to sell buckets or you want to sell, medicine, whatever it may be. And you pick that and you sell it to someone, and they have people come in who are in sales positions or, deal with something like that. And so I came in and with 3, I think there were 3 other students and myself, and sold to a lady that came in and volunteered her time to be with us that night. And so you get to do that, and then you have a dinner afterwards where you get to mingle with the people, especially for the students that are interested in sales and doing things like that. So it's definitely, like I said, it really puts you in a position where you get some feedback from people who are in a career that you would enjoy. And so I really, really enjoyed that class.
How was your ride along?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It actually worked out in my favor. So it was, I know a lot of people just kind of call random people and say, hey, this is really crazy. But I got lucky, and it was actually someone that I knew. It was a man he's actually from a town right outside of Hugo, from Choctaw County. And so he was kind of in between the ages of my brother and I, and he was in a sales position on the large animal side, kind of a distributor type person. And so he had one of the little vans that has the medicine in the back, and he just drives around to places. So I got to ride along with him, and so it was really interesting. I felt like there wasn't a lot of pressure as far, because we did have a relationship before that as far as being with each other. But it was really fun. We met a guy in a pasture that was on a tractor who got off to talk to us. And so that was kind of the turning point when I really knew what I wanted to do. Because I'm like, people get paid to do this? This is great. So anyway.
Any other professors outside of Dr. Anderson that just really stick out for you?
Well, and I can't just really nail down one in the AgCom profession. I mean, they all, and they all preferred that we call them by their, first names. So, Dwayne, Dr. Cartmill, and Shelley, of course, Dr. Sitton, and then, Dr. Nell, Tracy, and then Angel, of course. They were all at the time, and I know they're definitely adding on to the department as it is getting larger and larger. But they were both just, they all 4 were just so welcoming, and it was just, I felt a very tight-knit group with that department. As in our graduating class, there were upwards of 30 to 40 kids, which seems small, but it's really large for what it started out as. And I mean, any of them, here's my number, here's my email, call me anytime. And to be at such a large university, but to have that personal connection with each of your advisors, and to not go in and say, oh, I'm seat number so-and-so, in this class on this day. They know when you walk by who you are. And that was really important to me, coming from such a small town, to be able to have that. So
it really helps with your transition, too.
Yes, yeah, most definitely. I remember the day that there were several other students, which actually ended up graduating with, most of them, that OSU has the transfer day, so if you're coming from another school into OSU, you all come on this certain day and go through kind of a tour, and then you go to your respective colleges and meet with professors, and they enroll you in your classes. And I remember that day that I was in there with 2 other students, and we were getting enrolled in a lot of the same courses, and they were just like, I was like, well, I can't be in that class at that time. I have my job and da-da-da. And they're like, this is why you're here. You know, you just have to drop everything. You know, I was just kind of devastated because I was like, what have I got myself into, you know? And I felt like, because with being, you know, in a freshman and a sophomore level, they have lots of hours they offer courses, and so when you get, you know, into your junior, senior, into your major level, they're only offered at certain times, and so adjusting that was hard, but they made it very easy, and it was something that, you know, they knew, you knew they were putting you on the right path, so it did make that transition definitely easier, because by the 3rd week of school, you knew everyone and saw everyone in your classes, so.
Well, it sounds like your plate was full with work and with school. Did you have time for fun?
Of course. You always have to have time for fun. And so that was another thing. I wasn't really sure how it was going to turn out, but I definitely have to, you know, be very lucky that I got the roommate that I did. So I didn't have to go through the, you know, being put with someone you weren't sure about or, you know, didn't know or anything like that. I got to be lucky enough to choose mine, and she's turned out to be one of my dearest friends, and so definitely Macy and I have our share of fun. She had been in Stillwater for about a year, like I said before, and so she kind of took me under her wing and, you know, introduced me to other people that, you know, she knew there, and so that made it a lot more fun than you weren't just going to schoolwork, you know, home and being a little hermit. So we had a lot of fun together and got to do a lot of Stillwater traditions, and, you know.
What kind of Stillwater traditions?
Well, you know, you know, stuff, I guess. She took me I went with her to the annual calf fry for the first time, which actually happens to me on my birthday every year. So that ended up being something we did. I think last year was the 5th year that we have been together, so you know, just fun things like that. Going to enjoy a nice dirty curdy on the strip, which now they have their own building now, so They are moving up in the world. So anyway, and of course homecoming, walk around. I'd never experienced anything like that, and it's insane to try to explain it to someone. So it was a lot to take in.
Were there any particular places off campus that you like to visit or frequent?
As far as
different businesses?
So yeah, I actually made a personal connection with, I'm a big shopper, and so pretty much any kind of little nook and cranny that's laying around in Stillwater I've been into, know somebody that works there, and so one particular store came into business while I was living there, called Downtown Marketplace, and it's owned by this lovely couple, Rex and Debbie, and I had just seen them in town a lot, stopped by there, and they have an assortment of things in their store to offer, and so it was almost like a nice, you know, calming place. If you'd had a long day at work, you could go in and you know, visit with them and look at the new things they had there. Definitely enjoyed going into there, and then of course we had our favorite you know, eateries that we would go into and hang out in. So there is nothing like a Red Rock Bakery in Stillwater.
Were there popular places on campus that the AgCom students would gather, or that you would visit often?
So, gosh, I would like to say we were a lot cooler, but really the 4th floor is pretty much, the 4th floor on the north side, I should say, is all AgCom, and so if you wanted to find any of us at any given time, the computer lab was kind of where we all hung out. It was, you know, it was a place for us to, that we all knew, you know, each other would be, or if we needed help with something. And there were definitely, you know, with it being where it wasn't kind of in the center of campus, so it was hard to kind of meet up, in the lawn or somewhere like that. So anywhere around Ag Hall or, or around that area, we would kind of hang out and stuff. And so, it was an easy place to be.
Would you attend many of the sporting events on campus?
Went to the majority of the football games. I've been to a few of the basketball games. I and friends, whoever was with me that day, I really enjoyed the baseball games, and so we would go, whether it was baseball, softball, whoever was playing that day. It was something just nice to go to on a Sunday afternoon, or even after school one day, and so did a lot of those sporting events. So.
Okay. And were you involved in any organizations on campus?
So I was in ACT, which is the Ag Communicators of Tomorrow, so it's just kind of the internal AgCom group throughout colleges and universities in the U.S. So,
okay,
yeah.
All right. In your career at OSU, did you have any internships or?
So I did. It is a requirement in AgCom to have an internship to graduate. It is part of your degree plan, and so typically they like you to do it, but the year after you finish your junior year and before you start your senior year that summer. And so that summer, I actually worked for the company that I'm now employed with. It's called Zoetis, and so I interned with them that summer for approximately 8 weeks. And then at the end of the internship, you have to do your report, and then in the fall when you come back to school, you're actually enrolled in an internship course. And then part of that is just presenting to the AgCom department about your internship and what you did. So.
And did you find them, or did they find you?
I found them. It was actually through the man who I did my ride along with at SWAS. He actually gave me several contacts with different animal health companies, and so I just got out my notebook and started calling, and actually had someone say, "Send me your resume." And so I did, and I didn't hear anything that was probably in the fall, so I didn't hear anything for about 2 months. And then about the week before Christmas break was out, I got an email and said I had an interview, and it turned out to be the second day of school in the next semester. So I was like, oh great, already missing school, first week. And so I drove to Tulsa for my interview for that and interned for that position. So, and that's how I got it. And so they pick someone usually by the end of January, and then you start around the end of May. So.
Well, you're kind of getting ready to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have any idea? You kind of knew the area you wanted to work in.
Sure.
But, were you actively looking for positions? How did you?
Sure. So I feel like I was, kind of like every college student. I'm, what am I going to do with my life? Here I am. I've spent 4 years, sometimes plus getting an education, and then what are you going to do with it? And so I was definitely actively searching for jobs in the agricultural field, particularly with sales or in the banking industry, since I did have previous experience doing that. And so I just applied for what seemed like tons of jobs, and it seemed like there were about 3 of us out of the 25 or so in our little group that graduated that didn't have jobs when we were getting ready to graduate. And so I remember in April, it was probably about 4 weeks before graduation, and I applied for a job with Zoetis in Austin, Texas, and it was not ideal, as that is not my color of orange, but it was something that was relatively driving distance. You weren't going to have to take a plane to go to Christmas or something like that. And so I applied for that and talked with my contacts from the internship, and I kind of was, since I wasn't ready to graduate, couldn't start in a couple of weeks, it was something that wasn't really a possibility. And it turns out that was actually a great blessing, because the lady who was in the position, or who got the position in Austin, was actually in Oklahoma City and so which turns out to be, tremendously closer for me. And so it all kind of worked out, and so that position became available at the end of May, and I called my contacts again and got in touch with someone from my internship. I had several friends that I've made from the internship that actually, there's probably about at least a quarter of us from the internship that particular year that work for Zoetis now.
Wow. Yeah,
and so I had a friend that was working for them and said, hey, so-and-so that we met at the dinner we had at the end of our internship, she works out there now, you should give her a call. So I, gave her a call, and she actually wasn't over the territory but knew who was. And so the next day I got a phone call from that person and got an interview. And so kind of worked everything out, which was great. I got to come home and enjoy Hugo and enjoy the lake and hang out for about 2 months, which was 2 months longer than my parents didn't want me to go without a job. So, but it was a great break for me. I got to enjoy graduation and come home and spend most of the summer, here. So,
well, let's talk about graduation. What was that like?
It was great. So like I said, my brother had graduated from OSU. I would be lying if I went without saying my mother's parents are the huge OU fans, and so they were a little disappointed when my brother decided to go there. And then by the time I did, they were just like, whatever, And so my grandpa's had season tickets for over 30 years, big fans. And so it was kind of funny. I said, I promise this is the last time you ever have to go to Stillwater. And so he wore black. He said he was in mourning. I was like, but really, you're fitting in. So anyway, and so it was a really good time. I got my grandparents were there, my parents, my brother and his family. And so had my aunt and uncle and some other relatives get to come. And so it was nice to have, look up and have your own cheering section there. And so I remember getting up that morning. I believe our graduation was at 2 that day. And so lined up with the rest of the students. And it's just unbelievable to look around and see the amount of, which Kastner being, one of the biggest departments in the whole or one of the biggest colleges in the whole college. And so I felt like we were there for hours, lining up across Boone Pickens and getting under the stadium and going into Gallagher-Iba. And so finally got seated, and I sat with a lot of the AgCom students, and so we got up and listened to the speech, and it was neat, but it was almost like something that I had been watching happen for years, and it was finally, my time to do it. And so it was really enjoyable. It was definitely a once in a lifetime experience. So
what'd you do afterwards?
Oh gosh,
do you remember afterwards?
Yes. So I remember pretty clearly. I went to dinner with my parents afterwards. Well, and the rest of my family that was there. We had cake because, of course, what's a party without cake? And then they helped me pack up the rest of my house. I was leaving the next day. And so I did that, kind of sent them on their way, and met up with some friends. Probably our favorite hangout off campus was the Penny. A lot of the ag college, that's kind of, the designated hangout, and so most of us met up there afterwards. And one other student I graduated with, her family, she's actually from Canada, and so her family had flew in and stayed the night, and so her parents came out. They were a ball of fun, and so we just all had a good time. And it was more, kind of a big group hangout. We always, got together and say, we finally did it. So it was a lot of fun. And then I headed out the next morning, and that was the last time I left Stillwater as an official student. So, graduate.
Well, you've mentioned Zoetis quite a bit.
Yes.
Kind of tell me a little bit about the company and kind of what you're doing now with the company.
Okay. So, Zoetis is formerly Pfizer Animal Health, so everyone's pretty familiar with Pfizer as the human company. This was just their sister animal health company. And the start of the year 2013, they broke away It was kind of a situation where they were being governed by the human side, where a lot of the rules didn't apply to the animal health side. And so when they broke away, they came up with a new name. And so Zoetis, it actually does have a meaningful meaning. People say that's the craziest name ever, you know. And so the root word zo derives from, you know, zoology, zoo, you know, life. And so it's actually from zoetic, and it means pertaining to life. And so that's kind of where the name came from as far as that goes. So like I mentioned, it is the largest global animal health company in the world. They are located in New Jersey, and their headquarters, I should say, there. And then their products are sold over 120 different countries in the world. So we're everywhere in some way, shape, or form. And so what I do for them is very similar to what I did as an intern. As what I do now, I work in the companion animal division, which is particularly dogs and cats, and then somewhat horses, as those are considered companion animals. And so I just travel as a territory business manager across the Oklahoma City metro, and then western Oklahoma, minus, you know, kind of the Panhandle area, and travel to veterinary clinics and talk about our products. Most everyone, I should say, unless it's someone new starting out, is familiar with the products that we offer, because they have, you know, derived from things, you know, starting 60 years ago to now. And so it's not, you know, it's a new label, I should say. And so I'm just there to field questions, or there are some products that only we offer directly that cannot be sold through other entities. And so I, you know, help veterinarians discuss protocols, and, you know, if we have any kind of things going on throughout the year, I help host promotions, and we have, you know, booths at several of the Oklahoma, like the OVMA, and then we're at Stillwater every year in the fall. It's actually coming up for our fall conference, where we get to meet all the vet students. And then I was actually invited this year to go to the end of the year scholarship conference at the vet school, where Zoetis has student kind of student reps. Mm-hmm. So they're promoting Zoetis within the vet school, and we offer scholarships to students that are chosen for those positions. And so we get to do a lot of work with the vet school, and then, like I said, I just work with vets in Oklahoma.
It's great that you still have that OSU connection.
Yeah. I love that. There's actually someone in that position who title is career liaison, and so they're actually the ones that go through and interview the vet students. And he knows I'm an OSU grad, and so he's very gracious into inviting me to anything that's on campus. And since I'm the young one, I kind of get thrown into doing all the fun stuff like that. So I do enjoy it, and it's something I feel like I get to, you know, be interactive with the campus. So. Mm-hmm.
How often do you get back to Stillwater these days?
I was actually there twice last week, but that was kind of on a semi work related basis. But I try to at least visit once every other month or so. It seems like sometimes that's, you know, I think before yesterday, the last time I was there was June or so, and then April. So I try to get there every other month if I can.
Do you find that there are a lot of OSU alums in this part of Oklahoma? I mean, we're pretty far south in Choctaw County.
I do. It's surprisingly more than I would think. So definitely growing up, I wasn't one of those people who even thought about something like that, or even when I got into high school, it wasn't something until I was at OSU, or even more that I had graduated, when I ran into someone at the local diner who was like, oh yeah, I graduated from OSU. And so it's really neat to know that, you know, when you have things in common with that person that you didn't, you know, even realize. And so you could talk about, you know, football games at Boone Pickens, or, like I said, walk around at homecoming, and they know, you know, the experience because they got to experience the same thing. So I would say it's surprisingly more. It is further south, but being such an large agricultural area, I feel like there are a lot of people in the community that are OSU alumni.
Mm-hmm. These days, how do you show your OSU pride?
Sure. So I have this really funny story that I remember when I was in gingerbread. We took these pictures one day with these crayons. It was kind of something they did at Easter. We took pictures of bunnies and, anyway. And so we had these crayons and we put our hands on them. And I remember I asked the photographer, he had several different colors there. And I said, I want a red, no, it was pink. I said, I wanted a pink crayon. Well, he didn't have pink. So in my mind, I would initially think you would give me the red crayon because that's the next closest thing. Well, he gives me the orange crayon, and I was just orange. I used to tell people it makes my head hurt to look at it, And so I remember finding that picture when we were, during the move, and I thought, I had it all figured out then. Who would have thought, years later that half my closet would be orange? So definitely, I am a member of the Alumni Association. I try to stay up with things that are going on here in the community, and especially with working in Oklahoma City, there's a lot more events that happen there that I get to participate in, and then of course just trying to get back as much as possible to the games and participating in OSU and things like that. And so, as I mentioned before, my roommate Macy, that is one of my dear friends, she actually works for the extension office at OSU now in the county she is from. And so any chance I get, I try to go back and help with events that she's hosting, or if she does go to Stillwater for things like that. And so I try to, as much as possible, be back there. And then of course with my job, being at the vet school, and even if it's a career fair or participating with students who are now in Dr. Anderson's class, riding along with myself. So being a part is definitely something, I never wanted to be one of those students where I just went through school and then you go back and people are like, you're maybe a year later, your professors are like, I don't really remember them, So I try to stay involved because it is such a great university, and it gave so much to me. That.
So are those ride-alongs fun now? Yeah,
they're a lot more fun than I actually had two this year. I usually have one a semester, and I had two, and they were both actually ag comm majors, so that kind of made it a little bit easier that they were telling me about their, highs and woes, I like to say, of ag comm. And so they're a lot more fun because, you kind of get to dictate what goes on. And so, yeah, they're interesting, to say the least. So,
it's different being on the other side.
It is, because I remember thinking, when I went with mine that... I was like, okay, I need to ask lots of questions, or I need to do this, or I don't want to be unprofessional, or, seem like that. And then on the other side, I feel like, oh, I hope they don't ask lots of questions, or I hope, and I feel like, I'm the one where I need to appear as though, I'm all business. And so it's nice just to be able, especially being as close as I am in age with the students that are there now, just to kind of relax and give them a true point of view of how, things are, and it's not all, you get to have fun too. So,
well, kind of along those lines, what advice would you give to ag comm students these days?
So, I guess I'm kind of, like I said, I found myself in ag comm, but I immediately knew that I didn't want to do traditional ag comm things, and so it's definitely, I did get to work with two students during my ride along that are completely different. One of them told me about her passion, that she works for Sunup at OSU, and so she wants to go into video. So it's nice to not feel like I had to say, hey, sales is great. She had something that she was going for, and I really love meeting those students who come to OSU specifically for the ag comm department, because they know, you know, whether it's video or writing or, you know, photography for a magazine. And so I think while they're at OSU, definitely just you feel like you don't fit in anywhere, but you'll find that one class that is just super easy, and you think, how did I not know about this before? And so just kind of advice would be to if nothing fits, just, you know, just wait, because there will be something that makes sense to you and will remind you why you're there. So,
well, looking back on your time at OSU, how did attending the university and earning your degree impact your life today?
So I would be completely lying if I said I could go to school somewhere else and have been in the same position I am there, because I think I owe everything to going to OSU to put me where I am today. I think, you know, like I said, I was one of those students that felt like that was a really big school, wasn't really sure if I wanted to, you know, immerse myself in something like that, but it's the best decision. So for anyone who's scared about that or thinks that, you know, you can't attend a school that large, or, you know, you can't make the grades, you can do it, because I definitely think that going to OSU put me in an entirely different pool of being able to meet people who are associated, you know, whether it's their family or they work for so-and-so, and you know, the pool of networking is just endless at OSU. And so I met people who, you know, I graduated with people who are in every aspect of, you know, everything ag related these days. And so I felt like that's something that wouldn't have been offered to me anywhere else. And so it definitely put me in contact with, you know, people I work with now that I get to call my colleagues. My boss is actually an OSU alumni, and the several people I work with on my team as well. And then actually my boss during my internship was an OSU alum. So it just kind of worked out that was just, you know, I had that rapport with them, made things a lot easier too. So, but I definitely don't think that I would have been able to get the same opportunities that I've been blessed with to, you know, if I wouldn't have been at OSU. Mm-hmm. So,
okay. You know, I know you commute to Oklahoma City for work, but mm-hmm. but thinking about your time at OSU, do you see any impact within Choctaw County in this area?
As far,
you know, is the impact of OSU alums down south?
That would probably be something I'd have to do, you know, a little more research on, because I hate to say that. I wish I had a list. I wish I had, you know, a list of all the OSU alums that reside in Choctaw County, because I feel like that's something I'd definitely be interested in. But there's definitely, I would say, you know, a sense of community with that, whether it may be on game day and you walk in somewhere and you're wearing your shirt, or, you know, something that's going on as far as that, you kind of feel that sense of pride that, you know, you can't just have that in Stillwater, you can have it here too at home. And so I would definitely say a little bit.
So tell me a little bit about Choctaw County. You know, you grew up here. How has it changed through the years?
Gosh, well, it's actually, there are several new businesses going in this year, which I'm super excited about, because I feel like with it being a small town and traditionally the population is you know, an older age, there's a lot of, you know, don't want change, or you don't want things that you don't know about coming in, which definitely you know, kind of puts a damper on the you know, young people here in at Hugo, because I feel like sometimes it's not somewhere that's desired to live, or it's a good retirement community. I hear people say that all the time. It's a good place to retire at. You know, I shouldn't say retirement community, but it's a great place to retire, and cost of living is low, and it's really pretty around here, and it's beautiful. But I feel like there could be so much more, you know, for people to want to come here. You know, unless you're from here, I don't think it's somewhere where you would just, hey, let's move there. You know, but it's definitely changed as far as there are more, I would say, family-owned businesses that have been put in place since I have been here, and there's definitely things that have changed for, I wouldn't really say the worst, but is maybe pushing people more to Paris, the Texas area, to have to find jobs or something like that. But I think a lot of it is changing and getting better, and they just built a new high school here in Hugo, and so I know that a lot of young people have, that have maybe went to other rural schools that were maybe closer to home are interested in coming to school here for that, having new teachers and, a new technology at the school. And so, but I really think kind of would be leaving out a big part if I didn't mention the Choctaw Nation. I feel like if it wasn't for, them, that, Choctaw County, what they call the Choctaw Nation area, wouldn't be anything without it, without them and their community. Their headquarters is down the road about 50 miles in Durant in Bryan County, but they have several offices here in Choctaw County, and I would say it probably boosts the economy, or would be lying if 50% of the population didn't work for some entity of the Choctaw Nation. So if it wasn't for them, Hugo wouldn't be anything of what it is today. And then of course the circus, bringing in all the winter residents it does. So those are definitely two things that help Hugo keeping on.
Mm-hmm. It's always, whenever I drive through town, downtown is always still very busy.
Yes, yeah.
And very going on.
Yeah. And that's something that's really, so every town, I get to travel through a lot of towns for my job, and the very first thing I look through is like the downtown area. Love downtown. Stillwater is one of my favorite downtown areas. And so I feel like a lot of businesses have moved back downtown to Hugo, and, I think that's great. I think it's really, a lot of the banks in the community have really tried to put forth more effort to being in the community and host things, whether it's, on Fridays when they have football games, or, whether it's something in the spring that they're hosting. And so I think they've tried to focus more on the downtown areas and have, like I said, whether it was a party after the game and block off the downtown area and have games or something for the community to do. And so I think that they're definitely working, and it's getting much, improved, and more businesses are moving into old abandoned shops that were downtown that used to, once be something else. So I think that's really great. And like I said, I look forward to more of that. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems many OSU alums are very loyal to the school. What is it about Oklahoma State that sparks such loyalty?
I don't really think, I would hate to have to put it into words. It's just a feeling of, a girl that I rode along with me the other day, kind of, when she was talking about it, I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. She's from Delaware, and she said she went to visit the University of Tennessee, and then she went to visit Oklahoma State, and she said she visited there and liked it pretty well, came to OSU. She said she was on campus 5 minutes and said, this is where I'm going to be at. And I was like, that's just kind of how it is once you step on campus, and it's just, and I wouldn't even say, my opinion, it's the friendliest campus I've ever been to, but I wouldn't even say that. It just goes above and beyond to make you feel at home. And I mean, I would go as far as saying Stillwater would be, not half the town it is without the college. But the community, the people that aren't even tied to the school, are so welcoming to students, where a lot of colleges probably, a lot of towns are like, oh, I wish that school wasn't here. And I feel like that's just completely opposite with Stillwater. It's just, it's home away from home. I wish it was a lot closer to Choctaw County so I could just have the best of both in one place. So, like I said, I really couldn't put it into words. It's more of a feeling. And then once you're a part of that, it's just something you want everyone to know, and the sense of going, you know, 2,000 miles away and running into someone that has a OSU shirt on, you just instantly, you know they're going to be a nice person, or you know they're going to want to visit, or because they have some of the same experiences that you've had. So, yeah.
Well, you make your home in Choctaw County. Do you plan on? I always love this with a 20 or someone in their 20s. Do you plan on retiring to Choctaw County?
I would be lying if I said I wouldn't totally enjoy that, because I would. Like I said, I feel like with my family's roots being here, and my parents, like I said, just moved into their new house, what we would call their retirement home. It's out by the lake, and so I would definitely be completely happy and fine, and
I hear it's a good retirement community.
It is, yeah. Yeah, no, I would be more than content to retire and live here and enjoy Choctaw County. So that was some of my struggle in Oklahoma City, is to I have to look where the Walmart is, or I have to look where this is, or I have to get a cake made. Where do I go? That's the one thing you don't ever, I feel like I don't have to worry about here, is you always, Susie down the road, she makes the best cakes. Well, of course, we're having a party, call her, or you want a certain type of sandwich, or, I feel like I'm talking about food continuously here, but if it's anything you need done, you need your yard mowed, because your mower, you can call the neighbor boy down the road to mow it. It's just a sense of, contentment, I guess, that it's the good part of knowing everyone in town, and and the pride of saying, I grew up here, this is my home, and this is where I want to be. So. But yeah, I definitely think I'll be retiring here. So,
your brother, did he end up graduating from OSU?
Yes, yeah, he graduated in 2007,
okay.
And then I graduated in 2014.
And what's he doing these days?
He is a journeyman for People's Electric Cooperative. So, kind of nothing really to do with his degree, but it actually did help him a lot with moving up a lot faster in the company, and so he's very happy, and except when it storms really bad, then they're gone for days and days at a time. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so
well, it's great that you two could share such a close bond with Oklahoma State.
Yes, yeah. I'd say I definitely think it was something that. I'm super glad we can look back on and say, we didn't necessarily did together, but right. We both did that, and now I hope my niece does that too. So we'll see.
Well, what have we missed? Is there anything else you'd like to mention? Anybody we forgot?
One day, it was probably the third, fourth week, first month of school, and I was walking around campus with my camera for a photo project we were doing in AgCom Photo, and I was with another student, and we were pretty far up on the library lawn. It was August, September, hot day, and we were getting ready to walk back to Ag Hall, and we were just like, oh gosh, this is so far. It's 2:30, hottest part of the day, and we were just kind of like, let's skip through some buildings. Well, about that time, this lady comes up in this orange taxi, and so we were kind of like, what's going on, and she's like, hey, do you want to ride? And we were a little scared that we might get in trouble, we were kind of like, oh, where did this lady come from? And this sweet lady, Ann Hargis, gives us a ride on who I now know is Clementine, her taxi, and that was definitely one of the neatest things. We got to take pictures, and so she was definitely nice enough to include us in all that, and so that was kind of our 15 seconds of fame, I should say, because it didn't last 15 minutes of getting to meet the first lady of OSU, and so that was definitely an experience, and one of my first experiences at OSU. So, and she was the sweetest lady, and then she had ever offered, if you see me around, flag me down, and she says she gives rides to all the students. So she's definitely a great lady at a great campus.
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing some memories of Oklahoma State and telling us a little bit more about your family and your life here in Choctaw County.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having me.